Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Washington Gun Law TV. I am Washington Gun Law President William Kirk. Thanks for joining us. Hey, we're going to talk about this video right here. It was kicking around in the Twitter sphere last week. I actually used it in a post with the question of, hey, is this a lawful use of force? Got a ton of responses and a lot of good questions, and it kind of got my brain turning, thinking, hey, maybe we ought to do a video about this. You see, we continue to defund police departments, and in our inner cities, we are seeing an absolutely exponential an alarming rise in both property and violent crime. We're going to talk about the crime of carjacking today because it involves both violence and property crime, and what you can or cannot do if, God forbid, you find yourself in the same situation as this driver on this video. So today, let's spend a few minutes and let's talk about, can I run over a carjacker? Okay, so what we're talking about is a video that we're going to show you here in a minute. It's actually recorded in South Africa, but we're going to use the factual scenario here as our hypothetical for the discussion we're going to have about what would you or what can you do should this occur here in the United States. We're going to be talking about self-defense of property. We're going to be talking about self-defense of person. We're going to be talking about lethal force today. We are going to use Washington state law as a baseline for two reasons. Number one, it happens to be a little bit down the middle of the road. Not too liberal, not too conservative when it comes to self-defense law. Understand that there are nuances in every state, so this is going to be general advice, and I do advise you to consult with local counsel. The other reason we're going to be using Washington law is, well, it's the one I happen to know off the top of my head. Now, before we get into the law, let's take a look at what our factual scenario is. This is a driver in South Africa who's about to be carjacked. Watch what happens.
Celebrating its 90th. Thank you. I love it.
Okay, that is a serious F around and find out video. Now, the question here is, was this driver justified in mowing down this would-be carjacker? Now, as a general rule, let's go over some self-defense rules, okay? As a general rule, you are entitled to use whatever lawful force is necessary to defend yourself, your property, or other people in your presence. Anytime we are going to lawfully use force, the force we use must first be necessary, that is, we are actually required to use force. Number two, it must be reasonable, that is, both reasonable on an objective and subjective level. And number three, it must be proportional, that is, it must be proportional to the type of force that you are trying to resist. Most of my clients actually get in trouble on part three because although they have the right to use force, they have a tendency to use more force than what was legally necessary, and that can land you in trouble. Now, that's the general rule. Again, you're going to have to confer with local counsel to find out exactly what the specifics are in your state. When it comes to using lethal force, okay, when the use of deadly force is considered to be proportional and thus allowing you to use it lawfully, it's usually only going to occur in one of four scenarios. The first one is that you yourself are in imminent threat of death or serious bodily injury. Number two, somebody else in your presence is in imminent threat of death or serious bodily injury. The third scenario is that you are having a serious violent felony committed upon your person. And number four, you are having a felony committed inside your home. Again, those are the four general ways that lethal force can be used in self-defense. Again, check with your state. Some states may have fewer. Some states, like Texas, may even have more scenarios in which it's lawfully justified. Now, here's the thing you need to understand about carjacking is if you look up, for example, in the Revised Code of Washington, you are not going to see any statute which makes carjacking illegal. Now, does that mean that carjacking is legal in Washington state? As screwed up as this state is, that is actually not the case. Many other states don't have carjacking statutes either, and the reason is because carjacking is really a robbery. Okay, robbery is when you are forcibly taking the property of another person through either threatened uses of force or actual violence against them. So if a person walks up to you, points a gun in your face and says, "Give me your wallet," that's a robbery. It's no different if they walk up to you at an intersection, point a gun in your face and say, "Give me your car." It is a robbery. Not only is it a felony, which is being committed upon your person, a serious violent felony, which is being committed upon your person, but because this case here involves the use of a firearm, and our hypothetical involves the use of a firearm, the driver and any passengers which may have been in that car were all placed in imminent threat of death or serious bodily injury. So does the driver in this situation have the ability to use lethal force? The answer is yes, they do. Now, the next question is, what is the appropriate type of lethal force? Well, there is no appropriate or inappropriate type of lethal force. Lethal force is lethal force. If it's justified, you can use it. If it's unjustified, you're going to prison if you use it. Lethal force is typically defined as the use of a firearm or any other weapon or any other object which is likely to cause serious physical injury or death. So we see a lot of other inanimate objects which are not designed to be death weapons, but can serve very effectively as that if utilized in that fashion. The kitchen knife, for example, the baseball bat, and yes, the automobile. As a matter of fact, in some states, drunk drivers who slaughter people out on the roadway are sometimes charged with assault with a deadly weapon, the deadly weapon being the automobile. So if that is the state of the legal framework that we're analyzing, as you can see, when this perpetrator steps off the sidewalk and points a firearm directly at the driver of that car, at that point there is no doubt that the driver is in imminent threat of death or serious bodily injury, as are any other passengers in the car, and there is no doubt that a violent felony is about to be attempted upon you, that being the robbery of your car. It could have been much worse than that. This person could have had even far more nefarious purposes than just merely stealing the car. Is the driver justified in taking these actions and deploying lethal force in this situation? In Washington Gun Law's opinion, they most certainly are. Now, this is important. For those of you who geek out on the channel all the time, you need to remember this. While we will tell you all the time what you have the right to do, it is up to the tactical people to teach you what doing the right thing is. Obviously, if conflict can be avoided, if safety can be obtained, and no violence has to occur, that, as a lawyer speaking, is the best outcome. But we certainly understand that sometimes perpetrators place would-be victims in situations where they have no other option but to defend themselves. That likely was the case for this driver here, and this driver took very quick and very appropriate remedial and self-defense measures. Listen, I'm interested to hear what you guys all think about it. Go ahead and drop your ideas down there in the comment section. Listen, if you got any more questions about self-defense or anything else related to what's left of our Second Amendment rights, you guys should know how to get a hold of Washington Gun Law by now. If you don't, that's okay. That information, it's right down there in the description box. In the meantime, let's everyone remember that part of being the lawful and responsible gun owner, like we talk about all the time here, is to know what the law is in every situation, how it applies to you in any instance that you may find yourself. Until next time, thanks for watching. And stay safe.